things like that. Various cards you can count on wheeling if you need one, like very specifically one for your deck. A card like that in this format might be Disperse. So you open the pack.
There goes your land.
It's the rare that turns everything to illusions. So we're looking at Water Servant, Giant Growth, Sensory Deprivation, Root Walla, Master Diversions. So pretty heavy on green and blue cards. I mean, I think blue is the best color.
As do I.
Okay. I think that green and white are the two worst colors.
I definitely think that white is the worst color. I think green. Yeah, I think I agree with you. Green is probably the second worst color. So do you want to put yourself in a green? Root Wall is a really good card.
It is.
But Water Servant I think is a better card.
Water Servant is very good.
Yeah.
And yep.
It looks like Rose agrees.
Yeah.
Now the thing that's difficult for Rose there is that he has to pass along a card like Sensory Deprivation, a card that he felt was the best card actually in his sealed deck yesterday. He had 3 copies of that card, and it is basically just a 1-mana removal spell in this format.
It's also worth noting that in the 3v3 draft, if he passes the Water Servant and Sensory Deprivation, there's a good chance that the player on his left takes one and his teammate takes the other, and he sets up a cut pass scenario.
Sure.
So, looks like we have Shock, Johnny's Chosen, Liturgy of Blood, Archaeomancer, Rampaging Baloth.
So there's some good green cards.
Really good though.
So if you're that rare and he took a blue card already, the question you have to ask yourself is how many enchantments are you going to be able to get to actually turn that on and make it anything but a hill giant. And if you're in blue-white, not saying that he has to keep his blue card in Water Servant, but if you're in blue-white, a card like Sensory Deprivation, yes.
Claustrophobia.
Claustrophobia is another one. He is going to take the Johnny's Chosen, pass the Liturgy of Blood as well. Are you able to turn that on? Yeah. That's the question.
Something else worth noting, there was a Celestial Flare in that pack, and that was a card we saw the players not really liking yesterday.
Yep.
And it's very reasonable that he could wheel that.
Okay. Yeah, if the players are of the same opinion here, where Celestial Flare is not that great of a trick, it is something that you do want in your deck, and it has the opportunity to wheel. So take a look at pick 3. There's a Troll Hide. There's a Charging Griffin. Angelic Wall.
Looks like Charging Griffin and
like Griffin
some filler.
Too. Yeah, it does really look like.
Gnawing Zombie's pretty good, but I don't think we're in a position to audible in any way, shape, or form to black based on what we've taken. There's no incentive to take Gnawing Zombie over something like Charging Griffin that's approximately as good, which it does take.
And I do feel the same way. Charging Griffin I think is a pretty good card. It's not a great card. It's a card that's going to make your deck every time.
Yeah.
But you're not going to windmill slam that down. You're just going to be happy that it fills your curve and does what it's supposed to do.
Speaking of curve, he has taken 3 4-drops.
Yes. Yes, he has, and there's a bit of a glut there, but it is also solidified now.
Another Charging Griffin, Brave the Elements, Capuchin Knight, Troll Hide, and I believe is that an illusionary on it?
I believe that is. And you see him pull a couple of white cards forward here, so it looks like he's kind of solidifying himself into white. There is that Brave the Elements that you did mention, but Rose is going to take another Charging Griffin, so that's 4 4-drops so far.
Okay, and he might be abandoning the Water Servant as now. Hasn't really seen that many blue cards come
Also true. Also true.
I think the Brave the Elements is, again, worth noting, something that could easily wheel. It's very possible that no one wants that card.
Yeah. If people are of the opinion have the same opinion as we do here in the booth, that white is kind of a mediocre color, then they would be willing to just let that pass by. There's a pretty late Celestial Flare that Rose brings forward. There's also a Giant Spider.
There's also a Gnawing Zombie.
Yeah. Trained Condor as well, so a couple different ways you can go.
I think I like the Condor here, but Kyle Rose is just going to stick to his guns.
Yeah, maybe he's just trying to cut white just as hard as he can. Maybe even attempt to a mono white deck, hope to wheel that Brave the Elements.
Absolutely.
Again, I agree with you that I think white is one of the weaker colors in this format, but of course, if you're a mono white deck and you have all of the choices of the white cards, your deck's going to be good.
I don't think there's ever been a format where you can't just be the only drafter in the color and it's amazing. So this pack is Dragon Egg, Seismic Stomp, Divination, which is quite nice. Rod of Room, which in this format isn't that great. I'm assuming Kyle Rose has played and been able to pick that up yesterday. It looks like he's just going to take the Divination, which I 100% agree with.
Yeah.
Again, blue is the best color. Divination is very powerful. Dragon's Egg is fairly marginal unless you're in black. So he picks up Sensory Deprivation wheels out of his original pack, along with the Giant Growth.
And you see a couple of white cards. So you see a Griffin Sentinel and a Show of Valor, but he's not even going to take. I think he's just abandoning blue at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, like I know, and he even said himself that he thought Sensory Deprivation was the best card in his sealed deck. So for him not to take that when it wheels,
especially with the Chosen.
Yeah, that represents to me that he's kind of just getting off of that plan, off of that strategy, kind of abandoning the Water Servant.
So Sentinel Sliver is taking Celestial Flare. So both white cards wheeled. That's a very good sign for him.
This, the fun thing to watch now is the Brave Element's going to come all the way back.
There's no way it's not.
Yeah, you think it comes back? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a great trick, but of course it's limited in what it can do.
Yeah.
You know, it's white specific.
Galrose has been taking all the white creatures. Angelic Wall out of I think that was the relatively mediocre pack.
Yeah, I mean, and Angelic Wall, I would be surprised based on how his deck is kind of lining up. I'd be surprised if that card ends up making his deck. I think it's a kind of mediocre. And what his strategy looks like, he's trying to be an aggressive deck.
Well, to be fair, he doesn't have a lot of cheap creatures on the ground. Oh, it looks like he took Dragon's Egg, not the Divination.
Okay.
Cyclops Tyrant, that's a card I didn't see a lot of yesterday, but really liking this format as a common sort of finisher, really hard to block. See, Archaeomancer comes back again, passing Stonehorn, Chanter, the 4/4 that gains lifelink and vigilance. That card is pretty unimpressive. The 6 mana 4/4.
Yeah, I mean, it's decidedly mediocre. There's nothing really great going on. So last couple of picks here, Brave the Elements did not wheel.
It's very interesting. You really have to be a dedicated white deck. The Capuchin Knight also did not wheel.
Yeah.
So someone might be on a Suntail Hawk style deck, fairly aggressive.
So here are the cards. He's going to separate his curve here. Going to move that up front. There's a 3-drop. There's another 2. Water Servant being pushed towards the back. Angelic Wall still being pushed towards the back as well. Seems like a card that he's not in love with main decking. You know, he's got a good start for a white deck. He takes a look at Dragon's Egg, a card that he got fairly late here. About 6 good white cards to start, but I think he's done a nice job of setting himself up for the next pack. Hasn't passed a lot of, or it seems like hardly any relevant white cards.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Dragon's Egg in general?
It seems like it's decidedly mediocre to me. I really don't think it's anything exciting. I don't think it's a signal if it comes at any point in the draft. I think it's just a filler card at best.
Okay. We did pass a shock for the Ajani's Chosen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Trying to think, what else did we pass in our first pack when we took the Water Servants? Rootwalla?
Yeah, Rootwalla. I mean, and in that entire pack, Rose did pass a lot of green cards. Giant Spider, multiple Giant Gross, I believe. A Rumbling Baloth. So he passed a lot of green cards in pack 1. You know, no interest in being in that color. Did you see him open a Goblin Diplomats?
I'm a big fan of that card.
As am I. I like that card a lot. Hive Stirrings is a card he goes by, and no white cards of relevance here.
There is a Goblin Shortcutter as well, and a Pitchburn Devils. Essence Scatter. It looks like he's debating which card to take as his, this is his secondary color decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's looking at blue, he's looking at red. I think the rare here is very powerful.
And he agrees with you. He's going to end up taking the Diplomats. Now, why do you think that card's so good? Like, I know it fills the curve, but the ability, the text is quite relevant.
Yeah, it's just, you get to cast so many falters. I think, we've seen Boros Battle Shaper a lot recently sort of take over games. And this card's obviously not quite the same, but, it does the same kind of thing where you get to just destroy their blockers and continue playing your game as you decide. So it looks like we see a Sentinel Sliver, a Celestial Flare, and Air Servant.
That is a pretty big signal to me. Depending, and we have to, if we can scan through the pack again, we'll see if the rare is missing. But to see Air Servant get past, that card is so very good. It can be splashed.
The rare is missing.
Okay.
He opts to take it. Worth noting this is pack 2, so even if he gets blue cards this pack, he has to depend on the next pack, it being open on his other side for him to get anything. So we might just take a lot of blue cards this pack, take white cards the next pack. That's a thing you can do.
Yep. Alright, so.
Oh. Well then.
Alright, a second Air Servant is a pretty good signal to me.
And no white cards again.
Yep.
So it looks like someone immediately downstream of us may have moved into white.
I mean, what would be the thing for that to happen? I mean, I don't think Brave the Elements is
something. Celestial Flare table.
Yeah, the Celestial Flare table.
It could just be dry packs.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, dry packs for white, definitely not dry packs for blue.
Absolutely not.
Double Air Servant. I think we might see Rose pull that Water Servant from the back end of his deck up into the front end now.
Possibly.
Yeah. Let's see what he finds in this pack. Frost Breath.
Gigantic Sliver, and no white cards.
It's gotta
Shiv's
be-
Embrace.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating for Rose. No white card yet again. I mean, again, he basically got 6 white cards in pack 1. Angelic Wall was a card he pushed towards the back of his deck, so you can make an argument for 7. Frost Breath, another card that I actually do like quite a bit in this format.
Especially if you're this blue-white flyers kind of deck. Tap down their one guy that's attacking, tap down their one guy with reach, get in for another 12 damage or so.
He's got pretty good control of creatures both in the air and on the ground now. He can gum up the ground with angelic walls and stuff of that nature. Here's a sensory deprivation. One did wheel late. Last pack there's a Siege Mastodon as well, but you see him pull the deprivation forward pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. He needs more enchantments to go with that of Johnny's Chosen.
Yeah, I think this will be his first for the Chosen, I believe.
Yeah.
Now, he can, of course, get a card like Divine Favor, in a perfect world, Pacifism, stuff like that. There are definitely more enchantments to be opened or be passed to him, but this is his first for his Johnny's Chosen.
Yeah. He could have taken the other sensory deprivation, but at the time he wasn't sure blue was open or not. So we have a Zephyr Charge, Negate, Archaeomancer, and Train Condor. That seems to fit his aggressive style the best.
Yeah.
Zephyr
Condor looks really, really nice here.
Yeah. Zephyr Charge is a kind of interesting card.
Yeah, with double Air Servant too.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool combo, and it works with the Chosen as well. I mean, no one really played Sky games, but I can see this card being a little better because of multiple activations in a turn, potentially resulting in much more damage.
I would agree. We take a look here. We see this is the original pack. There's a Scroll Thief, a card that is very unexciting. There's a Hunt the Weak as well, so a Green Drafter is going to end up being happy. Also a Ranger style, but Scroll Thief is going to go into his pack.
Also a Hive Stirrings, but none of the white slivers are that impressive.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong here. Well, I mean, he certainly didn't get any white cards. Has he selected a white card in this pack?
I don't believe so.
He certainly hasn't seen any white cards. No, there's a Siege Mastodon. There's a Messenger Drake. That's a big signal. That
Absolutely.
is a big signal if that card tables. Blue is open, and while Rose hasn't seen any white cards this pack of relevance, the white cards he got from pack 1, the blue cards he got from pack 2, as you said, he can just take blue cards this pack and then go get white cards in pack 3.
Yeah, and I believe the Celestial Flare that he passed was in one of these last couple packs. It didn't wheel, so.
Take a look here.
Time
Ebb, which now that's a card that we didn't see cast like at all yesterday, and it is
once or twice out of the European team. That was it.
Yeah, and it's a card that is like a makeshift time walk. Can really be a huge tempo advantage. Do you like that card in this format?
I think it's good if you're blue-red. I think the Regathan Firecat style deck, where you're just sort of shoving through Regathan Firecat as best as possible, really likes the Time Ebb.
Okay. Just no real cards of relevance there.
Let's see. Yeah, the amount of red and green that's been flowing is just shocking to me. There's a Spell Blast or a Mastodon.
Now, I think this pick is actually pretty important because Mastodon's a nice, huge body. It's a 3/5, but he does have 2 5-drops and Air Servants.
Right.
But Mastodon does a nice job at holding the fort and lets him finish the things up in the sky. And here's a Quicken that he's going to take over a Zephyr Charge. But Spell Blast is a counterspell. It's kind of a weird counterspell because it scales in an odd way. It's not clear-cut like a Cancel, Negate, or an Essence Scatter, but it is still a powerful card. I think he's going to take Dark Favor and then finish up with his last pick. Would you take the Mastodon there, or would you take the Spell Blast?
I mean, Spell Blast really sort of defies one of the important aspects of counter magic, which is that your counter magic is good when it trades your low-cost card for their high-cost card. But at the same time, I think having access to that effect is very important, and we see he did take the Spell Blast. I think that the Mastodon is much more replaceable by many of the Pillarfield Lock style cards in this format. There's the Pillarfield Locks, there's the Lifelink Vigilance Paladin. It's just an effect that there's so many more cards. Armored Kinkrix, they just all do the same thing.
Sure.
Whereas with Spell Blast, there's Cancel, and then you really have to choose between Negates and Essence Scatters appropriately.
You see Rose organizing his curve, and so far we got a pretty good looking deck here. Put spells in the back. Yeah, a lot of flyers. Archaeomancer, not great in his deck. I think that's one of the things he wants to shore up in the next pack if he can, make it just a little bit better. He can get Flares back, he can get Frost Breath back. He doesn't have a Disperse yet, so his Archaeomancer is decidedly mediocre. I think that's one thing that we may see him prioritize in this third and final pack.
Cards like Divination, Opportunity. opportunity, you're always going to prioritize. But
Yeah, and Divination was a card that he ended up passing in pack 1 when he had the opportunity to take it because he didn't think that blue was open. It's been proven otherwise in pack 2. And so now we're going to see how pack 3 is going to go.
he seemed reasonable on playables.
Yeah, I think his deck, is reasonable on playables. So far, he doesn't have to play anything that is kind of stinky or garbagey. He's going to open his pack here. There goes your land.
Bogru, which is the rare.
There's a disperse.
It's a pretty shallow pack for
It
him.
really is. See if he has any interest in maybe a defensive draft this go around. Again, I'm a pretty big disperse fan. I know that Kyle had some in his sideboard of his deck and his sealed deck, and decided to go without them.
It looks like he's debating between the outrage and the disperse.
Yeah, it really feels like he's debating a defensive draft here. I mean, you can make an argument for de-drafting the Witch, you can make an argument for de-drafting the outrage, or just taking disperse for your deck.
To be fair, he does have a few red cards. Not necessarily a D-draft. He could just abandon white.
Okay. He only does have like 6 white cards, relevant 7 if you include the Angelic Wall, which again is a card I like in this format. I just don't know if it's tailor-made for his deck.
Right. In his red cards, he has Tyrant, Cyclops Tyrant, the Dragon's Egg, now the Outrage, and the Diplomats.
Okay. Yeah, because he did first pick the Diplomats in pack 2.
All those cards are kind of exciting, and there's a Charging Griffin, Pitchburn Devils, and a Dawnstorm. His red cards are exciting, and his only white cards that are super exciting are the Griffins, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not excited about the Johnny's Chosen all. That's just a 3/3 for 4. He's going to take another Charging Griffin, have the opportunity to maybe take a Pitchburn Devils there. Again, Rose was blue-red in the sealed portion, really liked his deck, and defeated Jarvis Yu in the top 4 to move on to the finals with some pretty good draws from his blue-red deck. So he's obviously familiar with the blue-red strategy, felt that it was one of the best strategies in sealed deck yesterday, and succeeded all the way to making it here. So I don't think we're going to see the switch.
Brave the Elements,
which is looking much worse in his deck now.
Wall of Swords, a Volcanic Geyser.
Angelic Wall too, boy.
I think he's feel like it's a little too late to switch into red.
Yeah, and he's gonna take the Wall of Swords. That gives him another 4-drop. We're looking at a deck that has, potentially 6 4-drops now. 3 Charging Griffins and Johnny's Chosen, a Wall of Swords, and a Water Servant. So he's got a pretty big glut at 4.
His three slots pretty good though.
Yeah.
And there aren't a lot of good 2-drops in this color combination. So Disperse, Pillarfield Docks, Frost Breath. I feel like I would want the Frost Breath, but Disperse is also a reasonable choice.
Another thing to keep in mind there's a Root Walla, there's a Diabolic Tutor, and don't forget about the Plummet that's in that pack.
Yeah.
And when you have a deck that has 2 Air Servants, you are pretty interested to know if there are Plummets around and if the opposing team has them or if your team does.
Yes. Thinking about Plummet, Zephyr Charge might actually be really awesome in green decks.
Yeah.
Junior Bailouts. Yeah.
All right, so speaking of Zephyr Charge, there's a negate, a counterspell.
Yes, absolutely. You can take Sliver Construct, show up as curve. You can take negate. You can take Hive Stirrings, which is basically similar to Sliver Construct, but I think he wants to negate. There's a lot of decks where negate is really, really good against them in this format.
I like negate a lot in this format. I just like counterspells in this format in general. I like Essence Scatter. I like cancel. I like negate. I like all 3 of those reactive spells. So we'll take a look at Rose's next pick here. There's a Spell Blast. There's a 3rd Celestial Flare that he's going to slam down. So he is the one with the Celestial Flares.
It's a pretty good 2-drop,
Yeah.
We're talking about his early curve.
I mean, if he's going to be under duress a little bit, or, he can destroy a creature that's blocking too. So
right.
This is going to be a pretty good card. Again, this is a card that I think was undervalued yesterday.
Yeah. So interesting question. If you have a bunch of Celestial Flares in your deck, do you choose to draw first?
Wow, that is actually an interesting question. As you see, Rose's pack here is pretty mediocre. Maybe D-up a Firecat and a cursed Spirit. Take a look at the Soul Mender too.
I'm not convinced that card is unplayable.
Wow, that's actually really hard if you would draw first with that many Celestial Flares in your deck, because it doesn't play the same way that Devour Flesh did.
Right.
Especially when the other team knows that you have a bunch of Celestial Flares, they can just like play a 2-drop, say go, play a 3-drop, say go, and then you attack your mana for something finally, then you can start attacking. But maybe that plays in the game plan that Kyle wants to go in. Is he going to take a Pillarfield Ox here? I really do genuinely think that's interesting about if you would play or draw first, if it has an effect or not.
Yeah. I mean, with Devour Flesh, you definitely would start wanting to draw first if you have a ton of them.
Yeah.
Just play a 2-drop, Devour Flesh it, or play a 3-drop, Devour Flesh it,
yeah.
Proceed with the game. So it looks like Angelic Wall braved the elements.
Solemn Offering he's going to let go by, so he doesn't have any enchantment removal. He knows there's a Shiv's Embrace out there. He does have a Disperse to take care of something like that, but that's his only way to really kind of punish someone who's on an Auras-based game plan.
Yeah. He's going to have to lean on his Frost Breaths, his Disperses. He's actually does not have a hard removal spell.
Yeah.
Just has a sensory deprivation.
No pacifism or anything.
Now, to be fair, this isn't the sealed portion. Getting pacifisms is a bit more difficult.
Yep.
Takes a pay no heed.
Yeah. Could be a good sideboard card.
Any other matchup, absolutely. Against Deadly Recluses and Deathgaze Cockatrice.
I truly wouldn't be surprised after watching this. You see he's going to take a Duress here. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a Johnny's Chosen in his sideboard.
Easily could believe that.
I wouldn't be surprised if he just doesn't play that. Well, I mean, that's a hard to cast Hill Giant.
Yeah.
For his deck. So he's just going to take a red card here. I think he passes the Tyrant. It's a wild guess.
Yeah. Pretty interchangeable.
Yeah. He's just going to take his last card there. So the players are going to go into the build their deck portion now, as the judge is going to move them over to their seating area. I think I like how his draft went. I don't think there was anything crazy that happened there. Passed a lot of green cards. Cards like Giant Growth, cards like Plummet, things that he can tell his teammates about, assuming they don't have them. He can say, I passed these cards. Another card that he passed that is big is Megantic Sliver.
Yes.